Hi, my name is Clayton Chamberlain. I'd like to thank you for joining Why We Are Christians. We're continuing our discussion with Katrina Pierce. She told us about her childhood growing up and some of the conflict involved. We're going to revisit that and talk about her faith a little more. Mm-hmm. Katrina, when we last left, we had talked about the story of when you were 8 and how God performed a miracle, you felt.
Yes.
And that was your first God moment.
Yes.
But then we got into this whole discussion of your father and the later years when you were a teenager. Mm-hmm. Could you kind of review that a little bit?
Yeah, my father was very strong in the faith, I should say, and his ultimate goal as a father is to protect his children and his family, and also make sure to steer us in the right path. But I feel like we had a very hard time meeting minds, and my dad was very hard the way he instilled the values of Christianity into me, and I didn't take it well. I didn't feel that I had a safe and warm feeling where I had it other times in
So he was very
in
stern.
the faith. He was very, very tough. Yes, yeah. So it didn't sit well. It was a very stressful time for a while.
And you're a teenager and you're trying to find your independence and you move out and there's all this conflict going on. And now, we'll go back to everything that happened. Now where are you with them? I'm just curious. I mean, has it been resolved or is it the same?
I feel a little bit conflicted about where it still is, because we actually, after my parents separated, I didn't have a lot of contact with him. There wasn't as much. And during the separation, there were some things that happened that where I felt like he kind of re-hurt me again. And I was trying to help him at that time when they were separating, just to try to make it as easy as possible. My dad actually, he's legally blind now, and he wasn't always. And so that was very hard, and that was very hard on him. And I was doing what I can to help him, but I felt re-hurt again, and we actually don't really communicate to talk very often, being every maybe few years. But it's been, the last time I saw him was last August, and we actually I took him out for his birthday. He lives in Tahoe, and I go up there all the time to see my mom, but I don't often go to see him. And it was actually a really nice visit. It was very, very nice. But I just was so worried that the next time wouldn't be so nice, because it's just such a I guess it could go either way. It's a 50-50. He could say one thing and it just turns it all around. And so I was really appreciative of the nice time, and I haven't seen him since. Which is hard. It's hard. I'm very conflicted. But I don't have that emotional bond where I want to. I feel that I should, that I need to. And of course, I do wish that I had that dad that I see other people have and grow up with. And when I see, kids, and I see a dad, playing with their kid the way I wish that I feel like it should be, it's tough, but I would want it different. If I were to have a child and to have my husband, I would want it different.
How much impact do you think your father had on your faith, both in a negative and a positive way? And what I mean by a positive way is you've managed to find your own faith eventually. Mm-hmm. And maybe it was because you ran away from him. I'm just curious how he impacted you in both directions.
I think there are definitely some ways where he impacted both. And positively, I think he did, because he was so concerned with me being saved, me being on the right path, me being close to God and doing everything the right way so I could make sure, or he could be sure that I was going to heaven.
Do you think he was doing that out of love?
I do. I think yes,
right.
I do.
Right.
I don't think he did it the right way. I don't think it worked for me. I think it pushed me away from him and our relationship, but he told me even himself several times that he was not as concerned about our relationship as he was with my relationship with God. And I guess in a positive way, I mean, I've seen him shed tears over it. I've seen him scream and yell and blow his top over it. I've seen him, but I feel like he tried so hard, and he might have not known how to do it. He might have been doing it the wrong way, but the passion that I saw of him trying to keep me close to God was memorable for me, and it is something that I don't forget.
All right, let's back up a little bit, and we'll come back to this a little later, if that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had this idyllic 8-year-old vision of finding the thing. As a teenager, you took ownership of it. Tell me about the 20s. The 20s, I find that generally speaking, people in their 20s they're independent. They've got this newfound independence. They don't really care a lot about the faith. Was that the case with you, or?
Yeah, I definitely had a big gap and there were times that I came back, and I remember there were a few times, they were far between, but I remember, attending church on my own, and I would go and I would cry, and I wouldn't be sad about anything, but it was almost that it was just so much emotion that I felt being there, that I felt, and you don't necessarily go to church to be closer to God, because you can be close to God anywhere. But I think sometimes it is the environment of being there symbolizes maybe what I felt as a child or something. Maybe the closeness or the familiarity of the innocence, of, just pure comfort in His presence. But I remember several times, and I prayed.
So these tears, were they happy tears? Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't know. They were emotional tears, and I still tend to have that sometimes. And sometimes I'll have a great day. There's nothing to cry about. But sometimes when I'm at church, I feel that I can I feel maybe opened up a little bit in a way that in the world, you have to keep going, keep going, keep going. And sometimes sitting at church, I just feel that I can just kind of let it go a little, and
be restored.
Yeah, I get emotional, singing a song. Sometimes I'll get emotional when I can't, or when there's being some kind of a passage read that hits home or something. It's just being there. It's just, and I don't know why. I don't know why that is. And sometimes I'm like, why am I crying right now? I don't know. I'm just emotional. I just get emotional in that because I'm sentimental, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it, or I don't know. I think I want the ability, to kind of crawl up into God's lap and just have Him hold you, and I kind of feel like that I am.
At what point do you think you took ownership of your faith?
I think it's actually recently that I've been a lot stronger. I think it's actually in the last about 4 years that I've moved here. I've lived here in Marin for about 5 years, and about a year in, I really started searching out a church and I attended several through the years looking for something, and then I came to Mill Valley Church and that Miller Avenue, and that's where the very first time I just felt right at home. I felt at home more than I'd felt in any of those other churches, even though I'd attended other churches, for several months at a time. But it just was some comfort that I hadn't felt in a really long time, and I wanted to go back. I just wanted to go back every Sunday, and I do. And I, give up my sleep. I give up social activities. I give up other things to go, and I'm always kind of surprised that I do that. But because my pattern has been different, before. So it's stronger this time. It's different. I want a closer relationship with God, and I want to know more. And I feel like I have such a long way to go. I have a very long way to go. I've never read the Bible cover to cover. I feel like that's not a good sign of a good Christian. I need to read it more. I need to make time to. But even just participating in something like this is a stretch for me. I haven't done something like this before. So I used to when I was younger. I used to participate in all the kinds of outside activities that the church would have, youth groups and plays and outside concerts, but I just haven't since then. And so now I'm doing it not because my parents are taking me or because my friends are telling me. It's just me. I'm making this choice, and I think that's what's different, because I'm doing it for me.
So you see yourself as owning it now. Tell me about your brother and your sister. We talked about them earlier, and they went through the same. They had the same family you did. Mm-hmm. Where are they in the faith?
Very different, actually. My brother is he's the youngest. He does not. He had a very difficult time with my dad as well, and he's stepped away from my dad and from the faith completely. And he puts the two together very closely, and
so he ties the two together. He's father
and faith.
They're related. Okay.
I guess that. Yeah. He's a little. I'm a little nervous to talk about it with him very deeply because he'll get upset, and I don't want him to, to walk away. I feel a couple times he gets frustrated, and he'll turn off for a little while, and that really terrifies me. I don't want to lose him. I don't want to lose my brother or the contact that I have with him. He's vital. He's the constant man in my life. So I need him. My sister, she's kept her faith all the way. She's very strong, and I admire her. I used to not admire her so much, but I used to think, what is wrong with her? She's no fun at all. But she's brilliant. She's always been very studious, always been reading when I've been off with friends, and that was always, we were very different, but we still remained close in several ways. She actually became, she graduated as an astrophysicist. She's very smart. And she moved to Atlanta, Georgia to finish her PhD. And she attended a church there where she met a man in a Bible study. They hit it off right away. And this was the first man that I'd ever known her with. This was the first boyfriend that I'd ever, my brother, he dated, I dated, and she just didn't. She just didn't. I was always, studious and followed her faith strongly, and I guess just never met anyone worth it for her. But some reason he was, and she, as soon as I met him, he is like the male version of my sister. He's perfect for her, and he's great. I adore him. He's a great Christian, and his parents are as well, and it's really nice to see them together and to see them so happy. And they were married and had a beautiful wedding, and now they have two beautiful little boys. And I'm so sad that they live so far away because they have our two little nephews and they're gone. They're in South Carolina right now, so they're far. But we FaceTime, and we're thankful for the technology we have to keep up. But she's always been an inspiration, and the fact that she has, every time I talk to her, things are good, and they have things, but their relationship is strong. And yes, it's still early on, but their relationship is just different than any relationship that I've had. Mm-hmm. It's just started different. It's just different. And I would, if I'm going to have a relationship, to last, I would like something that she has. Otherwise, I won't marry. I won't, because I don't want to end up like, my parents are so many other people that I know that have separated, and that's tough, because that's a very big conflict in, Christian faith values.
So as you matured in the faith and gotten stronger, now you own it, you say, how does it affect your relationships with other people? I mean, you're dating, right? She's single, she's dating.
I'm dating.
So, how much does that?
I haven't dated anyone that is another Christian.
Okay.
So I don't know, but at the same time, I haven't had a relationship that I felt good about staying in for forever. I haven't had that.
So it's not one of those criteria that have to be met.
I think it's on my list, but I think it limits me at the same time. I really enjoy meeting people and getting to know their story and getting to know who they are and seeing, just learning about them, and you know, it enlightens your. Sometimes you learn something about yourself by talking to somebody else, and it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to have a relationship, you know, that's going to last forever. But it's I really enjoy just meeting people and getting to know, you know, who they are. And I don't know that maybe I'm not going to settle down and get married. Maybe that's not in my cards. I always thought I would be the one married and having kids. I thought that was going to be me, and it's my sister, which is great. That's fine. And I'm kind of, I guess, settling into, I know, especially at my age, I'm thinking it might be just, I might have a different path. And I'm really kind of opening myself up to what is my path, instead of trying to find a relationship and trying to, you know, I'm not necessarily trying to find that right now. And I've always been in one to the next. So right now I'm just learning about myself, and I'm enjoying dating and, you know, still getting to know people, and that's always nice to do. But I am getting to know myself and working on my faith and working on my relationship with God. I believe so much more in the power of prayer now than I think I ever have. I mean, and it brings me back to that moment when I was a child, and, you know, and I did pray, and it worked. And it's not that it just works like you want it to every time, but I feel that it does have power, and I feel that God does listen to us, and there isn't, you know, sometimes we can't solve our own problems. We don't know what to do, but if you give it to Him, He knows, and He'll maybe reveal the path that we're supposed to go on. And I'm trying to be as open to that as possible right now. And I feel like I just have to, if you let yourself be open to coming here to the interview, I so wanted to say no. I'm way too busy with work. I'm so swamped with things going on in my own life that I can't do it. But every time I thought about, you know, canceling, I stopped, and I knew that that wasn't the right thing. And instead of just saying, you know, go for it, you're going to feel better about getting it off your plate and doing other things, I felt drawn to be here. I felt that I should be here, and I am glad I am, because even though I was nervous, it still was something that I really wanted to be a part of, and I just feel good about it. I feel like I'm listening. I'm trying to listen a little bit better to where He wants me to be.
You know, a lot of times when we pray and things happen, we don't always get what we want.
This is true.
You ever have those moments where you say, you know, what are you thinking?
Yeah. I you know, that's part of, I always wanted a child. I always thought that I would have a child. I wanted one from a very young age when I didn't understand where they came from, but I wanted a child. I used to ask for one for Christmas. I remember, you know, crying, why couldn't I? It was good. Why couldn't I get a baby this year? I didn't understand, but I genuinely wanted one. And all the way through, you know, I started babysitting as soon as I was old enough to, you know, take care of someone younger than I was, and always caring for the younger generation. And I always imagined I'd have my own child. But as I think about it now, and you know, you think about, why don't I have my own? But I've never been in a situation where I've been with someone that I'd want to necessarily have a child with and be with. And you know, I thought I had, but for some reason, I knew better. I've been engaged before, and something told me no, and I listened. And I've always also been blessed with having kids in my life. Around me, other you know, people's kids that needed extra attention or care, or I've always had that. And I know some people, I talk to them, and they're like, really, I've never had some people just don't have that, the kids around them like I have. But I feel that I'm realizing it now, that God has given me kids all along to take care of, and I've raised, through, you know, little sections of different children's lives, I've raised lots of different kids and been a part of lots of their lives. And maybe I wasn't meant to have just one of my own. Maybe I was meant to take care of more, and maybe there's, more kids out there I can be a part of their lives. I'm really open, to that now in a way that I don't think I was before, and kind of realizing things that I didn't before, which is kind of neat. But I'm content and I'm happy with where I am, and I'm okay. So whatever is in my future I'm looking forward to.
Fair enough. Katrina, we were talking about some things earlier. I want to shift gears for just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
What was the darkest moment in your faith walk so far?
In my faith walk, I think it was with my dad telling me that some of the things that I was doing, he was sure that I was going to hell, and I remember being terrified, being just absolutely terrified that he was right and that I wasn't good enough, and I know that he was just trying to, to tell me that some of the actions I was doing weren't good, and God frowns on that, and it is an act maybe, if you're not following the way that he wants us to live. I understand that, but I remember being terrified and being angry and being hurt that he was telling me. It's not his job to tell me, and I was upset that I couldn't have. I felt that if he was trying to lead me closer to God, that and I guess I attribute this to the way maybe I try to act, as I try to be a reflection of maybe try to let God come shine through me, try to be a reflection of what he might do in the situation, and I didn't feel like that, and I was so angry because that's not the way that's not the way I wanted to feel about God or my faith or being a Christian. I didn't feel like that's what it was about, but it felt so dark for a while, and I was so dark, and that's not it's not healthy, and that wasn't right, and I know that that's not the way that he meant necessarily, but I know he was trying to scare me, and he did, but it was very dooming, I guess, at that time.
So how is your faith different? How have you taken ownership of it? I mean, what differentiates your faith from your father's faith?
Well, I feel that the faith that you have, the relationship you have with God, it's your personal relationship with him, and it doesn't have to mirror someone else's personal relationship with them. They might feel that their faith is best. They might feel that they need to get up and pray before they start the day, and pray before they go to bed, and pray before they eat, and that might be the way. Some people feel that that's the way that they need to do it. Like that's good for them, and it may not be that. That doesn't mean that that's the way it has to be for everyone. Just because I may not pray before I eat my lunch, it doesn't mean that I don't pray, at many other moments in the day that maybe other people don't. Doesn't mean that I don't have a relationship with God. I can have my own relationship with him. It's my personal relationship. And I have the same guidelines to follow as everybody else. And he makes it clear, in the scripture, which I need to read more to, which I sometimes push off because I'm sure there are things in there that I don't want to read that are going to change the way that I need to live my life. I know that. But I feel like I've been accepting of the fact that it's okay, and I think I don't have like a monumental person that's said it's okay, but just along the way, just meeting and talking with different people and seeing that they do it differently. This person does things this way. When I go visit my sister, they pray before every meal. The kids say the bedtime prayers and stuff, and that's the way they do it. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to heaven, or I'm not as much of a Christian if I don't do that, because I have my own communication with God, and it's between me and him. When I go see him, he's going to look at me. He already looks at me. He knows everything. So I have to understand that, and when I understand that, that's what I think makes a difference.
Okay. You know, we're getting ready to close out here. I just wanted to ask you something. Looking forward now, you're 37.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward, you assume that your faith is going to grow. Tell me what it looks like 20 years from now, 30 years from now.
I want to be able to talk about, I guess, my faith or the Word with more knowledge. I want to be able to talk to people with more background, because right now I am reluctant to sometimes step in and interject too much, because I feel that I don't have enough knowledge or experience to maybe back up where I'm coming from, even though I might. I'm not secure about it, so I want to become more secure and more comfortable, and I want God to work through me to communicate to other people.
And there are people out there, I'm sure, listeners out there that can relate to, a strict father or a familial relationship that you have. What would you say to them if they're in a similar situation?
I would say that the relationship that you have with God is your own. It's your own, and make yourself, inform yourself, which I still need to work on. But just because you need to work on, just because you haven't read the Bible, just because you don't go to church every Sunday, it doesn't mean that you can't have your relationship with God. And sometimes starting with that, it might drive you to want to know more, maybe want to read more, or want to go to find a church and other people around you that feel the same way. So it doesn't, whatever step you need to take, sometimes you just need to find your niche, and with him, I think he's very flexible because he works with me. That's a blessing. and I feel that. I feel him, and it's comforting because I don't feel he's my father, and he's everybody's father, and that's made a difference for me in a very positive way, and I hope that other people can find that connection with him however they need to, just so they can have that solace as well and develop it from there. But sometimes it does just mean walking into a church and just finding, and just go back and find somebody, maybe talk to 10 people and maybe one person you find a connection with, or they say something, but it's worth exploring. It's our future. It's the future of the only part of us that's going to move on.
Thank you so much, Katrina. Listen, it's a great story. I love the ups and the downs of it. It's very real. So thank you for joining us at Why We're a Christian. I'm your host, Clayton Chamberlain, and join us again next episode. Bye for now.